The world has never been so crazy. It seems like every day something comes out that just baffles me as to, is this a simulation? Is this all real? What is going on? There's just one crazy thing after another. And really, the only way I've gotten through this is through my various studies. And today we're going to talk about books that have never been more relevant. I tried to pick things that are uniquely relevant in their own way, and hopefully there's not a lot of overlap to kind of give you the most bang for your buck. But I think the first thing I'm going to talk about might be the most important because Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is something we're actively dealing with as we speak, especially with the genesis of AI, especially with the genesis of new technology that will really push the limits of what humanity is, will really push our ideas of what is right, and is it worth it in the sake of science? Is it worth doing these pursuits, or does humanity have something to lose from it? And most of the stuff you hear talking about technology, it's always like, this is so positive, this is so this. But what Shelley really shows you is that, are you really going to make that deal? Are you really going to sign away your soul and lose everything that you have for sake of something more, for sake of something better? And if you haven't read Frankenstein, I'm not here to spoil it today. I'm not going to go that much into plot points, but I'm going to give you the general themes and the general overview and what you stand to learn from this work, because Shelley's Frankenstein is really just the classic Faustian bargain, the classic sell your soul to the devil. It's just kind of rewarped into a different way and made more about technology, made more about pride and ego, and doing something that's not necessarily necessary, doing something that is trying to leave your mark on a world, and in fact destroying your own life. Think of the lives of Caesar, think of the lives of Napoleon or Alexander. It's always their hubris that ends up tearing them down. It's always their hubris that ends up destroying their own world. And in Frankenstein, it's Dr. Frankenstein's creation that really is the destruction of everything that he once loved and everything that he once knew. And I think this is a very important theme to understand, because we always have to remind ourselves, is it worth it? Is it worth taking on this risk? Is it worth going for more? Do we need anything else, or do we already have everything that we need right now? And I love Shelley. I need to read more of her writings. I've been looking to find other things to read by her. So if you know anything else to read by her, I will certainly pick it up. Please, please, please recommend it. She is one of my favorite authors. Next thing we have is Walden by Henry David Thoreau. And this is another lesson that is somewhat similar to Frankenstein, but I think it's important in its own way, because Walden, I don't even know how to describe it. It's not really a normal book. It's not really a book of philosophy. It's not really a book of a story, or you're meant to learn this one universal lesson, but it's just more so a guy telling you his experience of going out and to live in the woods. He went out to live in the woods for 2 years, 3 months, and 2 days. I hope I got that right. I probably didn't, but it's not important. It really doesn't matter. And really what you need to understand from Walden is that Thoreau was looking for more in life. He felt like he was missing out on something. He felt like there was something more. And when he went into the woods to simplify his life, he found life. He found the things that he was missing on a daily basis. He was able to appreciate the little things. He was able to say, you know what, I have this tiny cabin in the woods, but it keeps me warm, and there's a roof over my head, and I can afford to live, and I don't have to worry about going out to work for somebody else or going out to do other things. I can just do what it is that I want to do, and I appreciate the things around me. I appreciate the 2 chairs that I have, so that when people come to visit me, they can sit down. I appreciate my tools because it allows me to eat. I appreciate the food that I have because I took so much of my time to cultivate it and sow the seeds and do all this stuff. You can tell I've never farmed or gardened or anything, but the point aside, and really what it's going to teach you is that when you simplify your life, when you get to the bare minimum of your necessities, then you find the life that you've always been looking for. Think about our day-to-day lives. We're sitting here, we're worrying about this, we're worrying about that, we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, we're trying to do things for the sake of doing them, we're trying to do things for the sake of the result. I am going to sacrifice X amount of time so I can have X amount of money, so that when I have this money, I can spend it. And it's like, wouldn't you be happier if you spent your time doing things that you felt a little bit more passion for, you felt a little bit more excitement for? And perhaps a reduction in your worldly pursuits would really, really, really lead to a much better existence. And that's really what Walden is going to teach you. That's really the main lesson that I want you to take away from it. And I think it's a lesson that isn't being talked about today. Everything you see online, everything you see in the media, all the commercials, they're pushing you to buy more things. They're pushing you to be more of a consumer. But the sad reality of possessions is that the more possessions you have, the less you can appreciate them. And the less you can appreciate them, the more you're going to want more. It's a very vicious cycle, and it's a very distracting cycle that will forever keep you from finding out what it is that you want in your life. The next thing we have is I say all this stuff, and then I'll just continue to buy more and more and more books. So I recognize the hypocrisy there. I had to say it before I went on because I'm like, wait, I buy as many books as I possibly can. I shouldn't be talking about consumerism. Man and His Symbols by Carl Gustav Jung. And the reason I chose this is because to me it seems like the entire world is pointing the finger. The entire world is pointing at a set ideology or a set political system or a set religion or a set group of people. Like whatever it is in your life that you're pointing at, just know that you're really pointing at yourself. Any outward manifestation of hatred is really just a inability to recognize that in yourself. Whatever you see in other people, you actually see in yourself, but you just can't admit it to yourself. And that's the harsh reality that most people will never face. But for this world to be a better place, you have to accept it. You have to be better. It's not about what I do. I'm trying my best. Lord knows I need the help. Lord knows I have my demons to fight. But like, it has to start with you. It can't be pointing the finger at other people. Because have you ever had a conversation with somebody and you were explaining something and they just couldn't see it? And then years later, they're like, you know what, you were right. The reason for that is because they had to experience it. They had to go out and do that on their own. And they had to learn the lessons for themselves so that they could come back better. It's the same thing with you. The moment you stop pointing the finger and you start looking to what you could do to fix your own life, that is the moment you have power over your own life. And that's essentially what Jung offers. Jung offers a way to look at yourself, a way to analyze yourself, a way to curtail your more negative impulses into more positive things and understand why it is that you fall short. Understand why it is that you struggle with certain issues. Understand why you can't face your fears and you have those same recurring issues, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in your life in general, whatever it is. Jung has the answer in order to find yourself and find yourself in a world that you enjoy being part of, because it's very difficult to solve anything if you are starting from a bad place. It's very difficult to help others. It's very difficult to uplift others if you yourself are dealing with problems. For the sake of other people, I really urge you to pick up the works of Jung. This one in particular, Man and His Symbols, is the most introductory level sort of place to his ideas. I didn't really go into depth about Jungian psychology, but all the ideas are there that I just explained. They're in much more depth, and the symbols that he uses are very easy to understand so that you could start looking into yourself, so that you could start analyzing yourself, so that you could start figuring out what it is in this world that you're looking for. The next thing we have is Man's Search for Meaning. And the reason I included this book is because this book is all about purpose. This book is all about understanding that when you have a purpose, you have a reason to go on. You have a reason to live. And what does it mean to have purpose? And Viktor Frankl was somebody who experienced some of the worst of humanity. I'm not going to go into too much detail because that's really what the book is about. And, you know, it's through Frankl's experience of evil that he was able to see the good, because, you know, in the forced labor camps, this dude was appreciative when he got to see the sunset with the other prisoners. He was happy when he got a little bit more food than usual. He was happy when he was able to sleep in just a little bit longer. He was happy when he was able to warm his hands by the fire. And it's like, there's a quote in this book from Nietzsche that I think really summarizes the entire philosophical system of Frankl up very well. And it's, man can endure whatever how when you give him a why. So however he has to do it, it doesn't matter. If he has a why, he will get to it. And that's really central to another idea Nietzsche has, but is whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah, from that, I think it's a Britney Spears song. That's what I've been saying. I hope it is a Britney Spears song. But essentially that it's about finding something more to life. It's about finding purpose. It's about finding meaning. And why are you doing these things? And the reason I feel like most people in this world are so aimless is because there's nothing they're pushing for. Maybe you're pushing for a career, maybe you're pushing for a house, or something maybe even more noble like a family, or you do something for your faith. But like, are we actually pushing in that direction, or are we doing what other people tell us to do? And I think that's really the big disillusionment that, like, especially people my generation have, is that we see that the systems are kind of faulty. We see that the systems are kind of hollow, and the end goal doesn't really make sense to push towards. But we do it anyway because that's what we've been told to do. And of course, you're gonna have this weird gap in our mind. We're gonna have this weird void where we're forever looking at ourselves, saying, "Why am I not happy? I should be happy." But the truth is, like, we don't make decisions for ourselves most of the time. We don't do things that are in furtherance of what it is that we really want to do. And I'm not even saying it has to be like your career has to be your passion, but there has to be something more to your life. You know, you make money so that you can spend it on your family. You make money so that you can save up for you to move to a country that you've always dreamed of, or go travel, or go do something that you've always felt the need to go do. It's like what is the purpose of what you're doing right now? What is the end goal? What are you working for? Why are you doing it? And when you can find a why, then you can find every motivation you need to go about finding the how. But until we find the why, we don't have the how. Next thing is The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. And I've read a lot of books on creativity. This is one of the better ones. And the reason I included this is because I think this is the most beginner friendly, but yet deep at the same time. There's a lot of stuff in this that is extremely helpful, and a lot of stuff I like kind of figured out my own through trial and error and working with the creative process. And I think Rick Rubin puts it very simply. I think he is very good at explaining these ideas, and obviously he should be, because he's responsible for a lot of big musicians that, you know, really defined. I think he did mostly rap, but he also produced for Johnny Cash towards the end of his life, which I also find very interesting. But anyway, I think Rick Rubin is a very interesting person, certainly has interesting ideas. You can tell he's well studied in Eastern mysticism, as well as Heraclitus and various other names that, like, I saw certain references to things that weren't like overt references, but I'm like, this is such an obscure thing. I'm shocked he knows about this, but good for him, and I see why he didn't include it, because it's not as important as I'm making it out to be. But really, what Rick Rubin is trying to get you to do is to understand that you can be creative with anything in your life. Like creativity is something that we all have, but creativity is something that we oftentimes put on the creatives, put on the artists. But the truth is, the great mystics, the great minds throughout history, the great philosophers, their solution to everything is always creativity. I hate to make it so dumb. I hate to boil it down to such simple terms, but Schopenhauer, the most pessimistic philosopher of all time, said that the greatest aspect of humanity is creativity, or aesthetics, whatever I'm contradicting myself. Nietzsche, the Übermensch, become your own person, unbounded by society's whims. What is that but creativity? Emerson, creativity. Blake, creativity, imagination. Dante, love or imagination. Jung, how can you find creativity in your life through the individuation process? Even Freud. It's very weird how all of these names really hone in on the need for creativity, because there's a certain aspect of us that is creative. There's a certain aspect of us that can't be fulfilled in the day-to-day lives that we live, especially with the strict, rigid structures of society and all of the social norms and all of the archetypes that we must fall into. There's a certain need for expression. There's a certain need to allow that more between the gaps impulse to come out, and really what we're looking for is creativity. So, I really urge you to pick up this book. I really urge you to start finding room for creativity, whether it's simply just, journaling, writing, drawing, doodling, singing in the showers is a great one as well. Some form of martial art can have some sort of creative expression element to it. Bodybuilding is a really big example now. You listen to people describe bodybuilding and tell me they're not talking about artistry. Tell me they're not talking about the same kind of creative process that a lot of people undertake when they're doing a more traditionally creative sort of idea of things. And with that, we'll lead into the last thing, because I think this book really kind of has all of these ideas and more. Reality Transurfing Steps 1 through 5, I'm an Idiot, by Vadim Zeland. I don't know how to say it. I always talk about authors and I don't know how to say their names, and I'm like, if somebody knows, please tell me. Please say it in the comments, because like it'll be like years before I find out the real name, and then I just in that moment I'm like, I've said it wrong thousands of times on camera, and I look like such an idiot. Like, you know what I mean? It's like something so easy I could just look up, but I never do it. But anyway, please help me for future reference. But reality transurfing is interesting because it's essentially, I don't even know what to compare it to. That's really how I'll define it. I don't know what to compare it to, and I don't even know what it's like. It reminds me of psycho-cybernetics in a way. It reminds me of William Blake in another. It reminds me of Neville Goddard in another sense as well. And it has some of these ideas that I've been talking about. But essentially, reality transurfing exists in the idea that we are part of an infinite multiverse of instances of everything that has already happened, and when you change your mindset, you are drifting into a new parallel reality. Whether you believe this or not, it's not important, but there's a deep underlying sort of principle to this idea that we exist in a world that seeks our attention and our energy. And the most important aspect of this book is that when we give our energy to things that are a system of control, a system of power, an idea set, it binds our imagination and prevents us from becoming anything more. And what I mean by this is, you are seeking truth, but then you join a church that prevents you from expanding upon that idea of things and learning for yourself and experiencing, what that text has to offer you from a blind perspective, from a perspective of somebody who's never studied a thing. And then you're taught a certain ideology and you're set into certain dogma. And it can be good in certain regards, but overall it's limiting. Overall, at a certain point, your questions will have you scolded and ostracized from the group. And really what reality transurfing is saying is that there's these pendulums that kind of keep humanity trapped and kind of keep humanity into set ideas. And what gives these pendulums power is the importance we put onto them. So think about how much people worship money. Think about how much people worship the government or worship certain ideologies or give so much power to set ideals. Even if you're in opposition to a belief, it in fact gives it more power because opposition breeds opposition. So if you're an opponent of a political party, you in fact make that political party stronger because you're a hater of that person. You're trying to bring that party down. You're trying to bring that person, and you're breaking their ego and you're making them mad. So they're going to have to respond with more anger and more ferocity and more vitriol, and you as well. And it's just an ever stepping stones up and up and up and up. And these systems and these collective ideas get more and more powerful, and they become more and more controlling, and they're even harder to break free from. But when we lower the level of importance that these things have, then our mind is free to operate and free to think in ways in which we can adapt our current circumstances. And really what I'm trying to say here is that we put too much importance into things. We put too much importance into the money in your bank account, your current social status, your inability to do something, your whatever it is in your life that you're struggling with. It's because you're thinking about it and it's too important. The best times in your life, the times where you've had the most success, is always when you're taking things and you're not taking them serious. You're just doing things. You're just acting. You're not worrying about how difficult something is or how you can't do something. You're just going out there and you're just going after it. And that's usually when we do our best. And really the point in me saying this book is relevant is because it feels like now more than ever people are so involved in ideas. They're so captured by certain belief systems. They're so captured by certain things that they can't even break free from that idea. You could show somebody evidence to their worldview being incorrect, but they're unable to see it simply for the fact that they're so bought into that worldview that they can't see the truth that's right in front of them. And I'm not making a statement either way. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that all belief systems are in fact limiting, and all belief systems are in fact take away from your power as an individual and take away your sovereignty. And when we can reduce the importance of these systems, then we can be free to do the things that we want to do in our lives. We can be free to pursue the hobbies and the habits and the activities that we genuinely enjoy, and we're not consumed by this weird cycle of waking up, looking at the news, checking social media, having to compare yourself to others, having to admit that I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this, and then continually competing for the rest of your life just for a hollow victory at the end that you maybe get. And yeah, with that said, these were 6 books. Hopefully I counted that right. Let me make sure. Yes. 6 books that are extremely relevant for today. I think the last is the most important, and I really didn't go into that much depth about the book itself because it gets very, very abstract, we'll say, or very metaphysical at a certain point, and I don't think everyone's ready to kind of accept those more metaphysical principles about the world. But I think the way I described it is very appealing to most people. So I think just use it as a metaphor, just use it as a allegory to the systems and the powers that control us and these collective ideas. But yeah, with that said, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for making it 20 minutes into a video. It's always awesome to see people who want to hear what I have to say. So that's it. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one.